it's me, Peacock3, and almost a year ago, like to the day, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie released in theaters. And recently, I realized, despite having a Five Nights at Freddy's poster in the background of my set for so long, have never given my opinion on the movie. So as I was making my list for topics to touch on in my Peacock3 retirement tour, I decided, how about I discuss the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? I've had a big history of Five Nights at Freddy's, made like a lot, and I mean a lot of videos on Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, it maybe would have just been like 24, but like there's been like stretches of time where I only made Five Nights at Freddy's videos. I'm looking at you, 2021. I'm sorry about that, guys. And ever since, I've been kind of on a Five Nights at Freddy's hiatus. So today I figured what a better time than the Peacock3 retirement tour than to figure out my thoughts on this movie. Now, to do that, I'm not gonna do the traditional video essay format. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna take some inspiration from my favorite wrestling YouTuber, Simon Miller. I mean, technically, Cinema Sins does this too, but like, I don't know. This is how I thought of the idea on how to do this. If you haven't seen already, there is a corkboard above my head. And basically what that means is that I'm going to recap the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And if there's something in the movie that I like, I'll give it a good point. And then if there's something that I don't like, I'll give it a bad point. We're doing a pros and cons list, baby. I hope you guys are ready to basically rewatch the Five Nights at Freddy's movie through my crappy commentary. Let's do this thing. Hey everybody, it's Peacock3 shill time. What I'd like to remind you all is that October 31st, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Halloween night, you can no longer vote in the DAWGIES. The DAWGIES is my award show / holiday special that I am doing at the end of this year. But yeah, besides voting in the DAWGIES before October 31st, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, I have nothing else to say besides go buy my merch. Now I'm standing next to a corkboard. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie begins how literally anyone could have perceived it happening. It is a security guard spending a night at Freddy's. Now, after a year of retrospect, I do know that the security guard was supposed to be Markiplier. That kind of sucks that he couldn't be in it, but it's not entirely anyone's fault. It's just scheduling issues were in place. But overall, I do think this scene does work as a good scene in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie to introduce everyone to the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. The animatronics are menacing, and the security guard is like fearing for his life. So I think this is a good showcase of what Five Nights at Freddy's is. If somebody's like, oh yeah, I heard of that Friday Night Freddy's stuff. What is that? But right after we cut away from Five Nights at John Kramer's, we do go to a wide shot of the entire pizzeria, which I think is really, really cool. And just for the design alone, just for production design, I'm also giving that another good, because this is exactly what I thought Five Nights at Freddy's would look like in real life. But I know I've been kind of doing tricks on this movie so far, but like, the opening credits is even cooler. Probably the most important thing that you need to know about this movie happens in the opening credits. So from a Five Nights at Freddy's fan's standpoint, I'm gonna give that a good. But from a storytelling aspect, I'm gonna give that a bad. Because what are we doing here, guys? Why are we telling the most important lore in the series in a 16-bit montage? However, we do need some movie in this movie. So at 6 a.m., Mike Schmidt wakes up, and we are introduced to our two protagonists, Mike and his little sister, Abby. I assume her last name's Schmidt. I don't know. I can't be too certain because they don't like giving people last names in this movie. Now, Mike isn't your ordinary run-of-the-mill guy who just takes care of his younger sister after his parents died. No, he has a job at the mall and is obsessed with something called the Dream Theory. A theory that states that you can go back to a distant memory in your head if you're surrounded by, like, certain kind of imagery that reminds you of that location, and if you dream while looking at that imagery, you can go back in time in your brain to reveal new details of that moment in time. It's a really complicated thing, but I did pop for Dream Theory, so I'm gonna give it a point for that. After a little more fan service at the mall, we're introduced to Mike's main character trait, which is that he has anger issues. However, this is a thing that gets him fired from his job at the mall. But first we have to talk about not the villain of the movie, Steve Raglan. So I'm gonna give this one a bad, not because of Matthew Lillard's performance, but for many other reasons. Okay, so I'm gonna probably give it a few more bads down the line. However, for this moment right here, all I can say is that if you are a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, it was revealed many months before that Matthew Lillard would have been playing William Afton, aka the main villain of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. I think the whole twist villain Steve Raglan thing is kind of dumb, but Matthew Lillard does really good in this movie, so I'm not too mad about it. But I'm not too happy about it, so it just gets a bad because of poor promotional decisions. So that's what we're doing with that. Steve offers Mike a job to work 5 nights at Freddy's. However, Mike was probably a big game theory hater because he does not want to spend 5 nights at Freddy's. He wants to spend 5 nights sleeping away at his little house. After a brief chat with Abby, Mike goes home and goes to sleep. Get used to me saying this because Mike sleeps a lot in this freaking movie, dude. Because, again, like I was saying with the dream theory earlier, that's how he accesses his memory that he holds on to so dearly of when his little brother got kidnapped. This is the scene where we're introduced to that fact. After Mike wakes up, we are introduced to a new location, which is Abby's school. Here we find out that Mike's relative, I don't really know what their relation is, and I really don't feel like looking into it. This is kind of just a review of Five Nights at Freddy's in a weird fashion. Has hired her lawyer, Doug, to sue Mike and take Abby away from him. Oh look, there's already a good on the board. I like this setup for a villain of the movie, considering Steve Raglan is just kind of just an employer of some kind. I don't know how William Afton has a job at a freaking career counseling thing. I don't know. I mean, you know what? Screw you, loyal viewers. I'm gonna give this a bad because how the hell does William Afton have a job as a career counselor? I don't know what I said already, but Mike eventually realizes, oh wow, I am being very irresponsible for not having a job and just beating up civilians at the mall, and this will look really bad if this relative of mine hires Doug to take Abby away from me. So what Mike does is he takes the job from William Afton to work 5 nights at Freddy's. The next scene I really do like because it does make Steve kind of the phone guy of this movie because he gives Mike a brief introduction of what he's going to experience at his 5 nights at Freddy's. Another reason I like this scene is because there was always the big theory about if William Afton is the phone guy, and in the movies, technically, William Afton is the phone guy. I do really like the introduction to Freddy's, and I'm also gonna give that another good on the thing. Trust me, there's a lot more plot stuff later that I don't like. I'm sorry that I'm glazing this movie right off the bat. However, if you're upset about me giving that a good, then you're gonna be upset about me giving this next scene a good because it's probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. I think the introduction to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is just a great part of this movie and has a lot of fan servicey stuff, including the thing that I will actually give a good to, which is the introductionary video that is in the like 80s VHS style. I really like that. After Mike watches the video, he starts to explore Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and this is just a whole stream of goods because another great thing happens. In the scene, Mike is introduced to the Freddy Fazbear's gang. There's Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and I don't think he sees Foxy. I know the animatronics showed up at the beginning of the movie, but I didn't really talk about it or give it a good there, so I'm gonna give it a good here. Because, oh my god, did the Jim Henson Creature Shop do really good on this freaking movie. Every animatronic looks out of this world fantastic, and I would kill to see them in real life. But after Mike meet and greets the animatronics, he does fall asleep on the job. He falls asleep on the job, but since he is at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, he gets to see the ghost of the kids inside in his dream. So I feel very conflicted about this. On one hand, I think it's cool that this is the only place he can see the kids because they're like haunting kind of the pizzeria. Also, I do like how they have a connection to Garrett being his kidnapper being the same as their kidnappers and killers. I don't want to give this a good, I don't want to give this a bad. I just think it's a cool thing, and I'll express my thoughts more on it later. At 6 a.m., Mike goes home because that's how you play Five Nights at Freddy's. So he goes back home, and we get to see the babysitter for Abby a little more in this one. She showed up a little earlier in the movie, but she is a very prominent side character that is important to this next scene. At Sparky's Diner. This scene is just fan service central. Not only is this diner named Sparky's after the famous Five Nights at Freddy's myth, Sparky the dog, but Mad Pat's in this freaking scene, bro. And there's so much more stuff I know about this scene that I've been to the location, and I can't talk more on the subject because, I'll talk about it one day, but I have to give this scene a good, because we got Doug, Sparky's, and MatPat in the same freaking scene. However, the plot part of this scene is not only that Mike's aunt, or whatever, is working with his babysitter for Abby, but they have a whole little goon squad that is trying to plot on Mike's demise, and is planning to destroy Five Nights at Freddy's. After this scene, Mike gets his Nebraska poster off the ceiling, so I should probably take my Canes poster down at one point, and brings it to his second night at Five Nights at Freddy's. On this night, he falls asleep, and he talks to the kids a little more, and the kids are like mean to him, to the point where he starts chasing down the Foxy kid, and I don't know what happened in the real world, but Mike gets cut by the evil little Foxy kid, and he has a cut on his hand now. Now, I know the internet complains about this because the Foxy kid has this weird effect where black makeup comes out of his eyes that isn't very scary. I'm gonna give that a bad, because I agree, it's not a good effect. The only good effect of this part of the scene is the Nightmare on Elm Street thing that I talked about earlier, where Mike has a cut in his dream that he carries into the real world when he wakes up. When he does wake up, though, he is met with my least favorite character in the movie, which is Vanessa. For those of you who don't know, Vanessa is a local cop or something that it just makes her rounds and sometimes passes by Five Nights at Freddy's. She's basically the phone guy for tonight, and shows Mike, like, the animatronics singing and dancing, and this is where he actually meets Foxy. So I guess that's the point of Vanessa showing up, so he knows where he got his little cut on his arm. I don't know, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie, but why are you watching this if you haven't seen this movie? Vanessa is William Afton, Steve Raglan's daughter, and I guess she's trying to get Mike out by saying, I'm gonna arrest you if you're a little drug addict working at Five Nights at Freddy's. But in the sense of the movie, I don't like Vanessa. She's very hot and cold. Like, I really do kind of like the theory where they say she's a robot, even though that's not, like, couldn't be a real thing, because at the end of the movie, she's in a hospital. Don't really like Vanessa as a character. It's something that the actress did. I mean, she's doing a really good job with the equipment she's dealt, but the equipment that she was dealt was rusted, because what is this dialogue? So I'm going to give Vanessa's dialogue with Mike in this scene a bad, okay. However, after the scene, we don't do the typical, let's go back to Mike's house to see him just mope around for the day. We get the payoff of the scene with MatPat, where they actually do trash Five Nights at Freddy's. I really do like this scene. If there's a scene that is anything like the games besides the opening, it would be this one. There's so many things I like about this scene. I like the guy wearing the Midnight Motorist shirt. I like the fact that Chica goes into the kitchen and nobody can see what's happening in the kitchen when the guy dies, because there's no cameras in the kitchen. I like the fact that Bonnie is in the hallway closet, like in the game. I like the Foxy kill at the end. I like the hard cut of the cupcake jump scare going into them smashing the glass in the main room. Even though people think it's cheesy, the shot where Chica bends down and puts the cupcake in the vent, I don't care, internet, Five Nights at Freddy's community. I like the fact that Sparky is in this movie and is a canon character somehow. And of course, I like the bite of 2000 that kills Abby's babysitter. Overall, this scene is executed really, really well. But since it's one just big, glorious Five Nights at Freddy's fan service moment, I'm gonna give it just 1 point for that. So, the next scene after this is another weird Vanessa scene. She is trying to get Mike fired and complain that he's sleeping on the job. They go and sit on a levee and they talk about life, and Mike reveals like why he loves his little brother so much and why he can never get over the fact that he died. However, after Vanessa leaves, we have made it to night 3 of Five Nights at Freddy's. This time, Mike doesn't have a babysitter to watch over Abby as she sleeps at their house, so he has to take her with him. Of course, it's Mike, so he goes to sleep again on the shift, and it doesn't, it's not anything different, really. It's not anything too different. However, the only big difference in this scene is that he only can spawn in the Golden Freddy kid, and he talks to him saying that, oh, all he wants is his brother. I get why people get upset that it is very repetitive in the sense that he just sleeps a lot in the movie. But I do think every dream has a purpose, and it is different enough for my taste. But I eat fried pickle chips, so who cares about my taste? However, as Mike's away in Dreamland, Abby is ready to play in real world. She goes play with the Five Nights at Freddy's gang, and this is where we learn that the Freddy Fazbear gang they are definitely just kids. So for the outsiders watching this who thought this was going to be a horror movie, that's a bad thing. And you know what? Because they're acting like kids, you know, you think I was going to put it in bad, right? You think I was going to put it in bad? No, I'm putting it in good. I'm putting it in good. I think it was a good decision for them to act like kids because they are possessed by kids. Now, everybody, I'm sorry. I just went off. But there is another thing about the fact that they're little kids that I don't really like. I like the fact that it's set up throughout the whole movie that Abby knows these people because she keeps drawing them. And throughout the movie, one of the themes is that kids communicate through drawings. So that's why they're talking to Abby. But my biggest thing is, why are they talking to Abby? Whatever, I don't know. I don't like the fact that Abby's best friends are Freddy Fazbear and the gang. It gets the point across of why things happen in the movie, but I just don't like it. So I'm going to put it in bad. If there was a better way for me to describe it, I'd say that it is a good reasoning for things to happen, but the reasoning for that to happen isn't very good itself. Next we go to night 4 of Five Nights at Freddy's, and there is a really weird shot of Vanessa just kind of staring at the camera. I'm giving that a bad. I don't know what... I get the decision of her just like staring and it's like a dolly zoom or whatever. I don't like that shot. It's just stupid. I don't know. I'm putting that in bad. But that isn't it for night 4. We got Mike and Abby showing up because, you know, Mike does work there. And while they're there, we do have more moments. This is the moment where everybody's mad that they're acting like children. They build a fort at night, FNAF Fortnite. But another thing that I do like that's introduced in this is the introduction to the little animatronic in the back room. This animatronic is supposed to look like Baby from FNAF's sister location on forward, but it is based off of the design of Ella from the Five Nights at Freddy's books. I like the fact that having this animatronic in the back rooms is showing the animatronic's true motive of wanting to have Abby being one of them, because an anagram for Abby is baby. So even if they don't know about Ella the doll, then they know about Baby from sister location, and then they're like, oh my god, Baby, Abby, oh wow, they're gonna combine, and then she's gonna be a robot too, just like the other kids. I do like the reasoning behind this, and I like the fan service, so I'm giving that a section point good, whatever I just said. However, while Mike and Vanessa are in the back rooms looking for like a tablecloth or something, Abby almost gets electrocuted by Bonnie because she's trying to play with him. So this sets Vanessa off and says a really weird line of,
but if you ever bring Abby back here again, I will shoot you.
Calm down, Vanessa. I'm giving it a bad for that. I don't like that line. It's weird. However, Mike realizes in this moment that he is maybe too irresponsible to handle Abby, so he decides to basically hand over Abby to the aunt. And if he does bring Abby back to the pizzeria, then he might get shot. So yeah, that's probably not a good idea to bring her back. So he gets his aunt to come babysit her or watch her or whatever, just like pre-game stealing her. And this upsets Abby a lot, to the point where she crosses out Mike's face on all of her drawings. And this shows, because the power of drawings is powerful, that the animatronics will also hate Mike. So on his way to his 5th night at Freddy's, he gets some more of his sleepy pills, because if he's going back to all of his bad habits, then I guess he's got to get the pills too. And he goes to Freddy's and immediately falls asleep. In the dream that Mike has tonight, he's shown a beautiful future that he would love to have. Now you might be wondering, why is he seeing this dream? I thought he's supposed to see a moment in his past. This isn't a moment that happened. Oh, it's because the spirits, they tricked him to selling the soul of his little sister. What is this? You can say this is a kid's movie all you want. This is some pretty crazy stuff for kids to be learning at the age of like 10, okay? I didn't know this stuff until I was like 9. But anyways, Mike is really mad about this, and he's not the only one that's mad. We got a lot of mad animatronics tonight. First, Mike ends up getting trapped into the Jigsaw John Kramer Five Nights at Freddy's trap. And on this note of talking about that, I think I'm gonna go back to the beginning, because I've realized throughout making this video that I didn't like the fact that they didn't show the actual damage to the security guard at the beginning. But I understand that they wanted to give it a PG-13 rating, so they probably couldn't show it. I don't know. I think showing the danger of the animatronics by showing this scene would have been very beneficial to make the animatronics a little more scary. So I'm going to give this a bad, because I missed it earlier and I feel bad. So I'm going to put this also on the list. However, I am a big FNAF fan, so yeah, I like the scene where Foxy almost kills Mike and chases him down the hallway, especially because he goes the little. But during the 5th night at Freddy's, we cut away from Mike and cut back to Mike's house, where his aunt is watching TV and Abby is supposed to be in bed. Here we meet the 5th animatronic of the FNAF gang, which is Golden Freddy. Now, I do like the inclusion of Golden Freddy in this movie, and the fact that he operates differently than normal animatronics. But the one thing I don't like is the fact that they don't foreshadow the fact that Golden Freddy exists besides there being a 5th child. So I'm gonna put that in the bad, because to a casual viewer, they'd be like, what the hell is happening with Freddy right now? Why does he have a Sans Undertale eye, and why is he outside the pizzeria? Another thing I don't like about this scene is the fact that the aunt dies like off screen, and you don't even get to see her die. I know, again, it's a PG-13 movie, but still, show us something. He's just standing there menacingly. But now Abby is going in a cab with Corey X. Kenshin and Golden Freddy to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I like that Corey X. Kenshin's in the movie. I didn't really watch him, but I like that. I'm not gonna give it a good or bad because I like it. However, now we come to the biggest problem that I have with this movie, and the moment where they say William Afton's name. Basically, the way the scene goes is that Vanessa is treating Mike's wounds from the Freddy Fazbear gang, and she tells him William Afton is her dad. But I don't think that the William Afton pop-off was really deserved in this movie, because, again, they barely foreshadowed the William Afton thing, because to a normal viewer, the Steve Raglan thing would have just been Steve Raglan. I think a better execution for this scene could have been showing flashbacks throughout Vanessa's little monologue instead of cutting back and forth to Abby at the pizzeria. I think that could have been cooler if they would cut back and forth to like, ooh, this is William Afton in the bunny suit doing this. But you should have shown Steve Raglan's face here. You should have shown that. Because to the average viewer, there is no connection between Steve Raglan and William Afton. I feel like the name reveal would have worked if you called the guy working at the career counseling place William Afton. Which I know doesn't make sense in the lore of the movie, but I don't know. This scene isn't executed very well because no one knows who the hell William Afton is if they've been watching this movie. And even if you didn't want to do flashbacks and show his face here, what you could have done throughout the movie is just say, oh yeah, William Afton owns the pizzeria. Not everyone in the universe knows who William Afton is, okay? Maybe earlier in the movie they could have said, oh yeah, the guy William Afton, he kind of went crazy and he killed kids and stuff. I know that's what this scene's for, but like throughout the movie, foreshadow this William Afton guy, and this is the scene where Vanessa's like, oh yeah, that's my dad, by the way. I'm like supposed to be helping him, but like I'm not, because you're cool and all, Mike. And yeah, those animatronics, they want to like kill your sister and make her a robot. So yeah, you might want to go deal with that. Next, Mike goes back to the pizzeria, and this is where the big final boss fight is at the end of this movie. He learns that he can give the Freddy crew controlled shocks, which is a FNAF reference. And I like this being used to take down the Freddy crew. But yeah, I know I complained about the William Afton reveal earlier, but oh my god, the reveal of Springtrap in this is so cool. I'm giving that a good, because it's so cool. They made Springtrap such a cool villain. I just wish they would have set up William Afton throughout the whole thing. Even if you didn't want to pay for Matthew Lillard for the whole freaking movie, just make him an on-screen presence. I'm gonna give that a bad as well, because you know what? I'm still mad about that. You had the opportunity to make another Blumhouse-like legend, or whatever you're calling them, and you fumbled the bag because you didn't want to set up William Afton throughout the whole movie. I know it's gonna be better and solved in the second movie because they're gonna show all the flashback scenes and set William Afton up probably as like a big villain, but like, oh, dude, you fumbled the bag on that. Now, even though this final scene has been like memed to hell and back, I do like the scene where they finally take down William Afton, and it's the Springlock scene. Yeah, they did it because they actually did foreshadow Springlocks earlier in the movie, so this is warranted. You know what? Sky Cawthon, I'm giving you a point for that. And the death of William Afton is really cool. Now, I'll admit the I always come back thing also isn't earned, because no you don't, dude. You don't always come back. You're barely a present in this freaking movie. It's gonna make sense once they make it a full trilogy, so I'm not gonna give it a down for that. Like I said, they finally defeat that. Freddy Fazbear does a weird like dinosaur roar for some reason. And yeah, they have a shot of Vanessa at a hospital. So yeah, she's not a robot, guys. She goes to a hospital. And that's what I was referring to earlier. Now, the final scene of the movie is Springtrap still moving because like he said, he always comes back. I don't, it's not earned still, you know, it's not, you know what, it's not earned, and I'm still gonna, you know what, I've changed my mind, I'm gonna give it a down. And then for the final good of the movie, I'm gonna put the fact that they put the Five Nights at Freddy's song by Living Tombstone as the credits of the movie. But I don't know, this is my thoughts on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I guess I did like it more than I hated it, but as you can see, it's pretty what and what. But I don't know, I've been very like silent about my opinions on the FNAF movie, and if you guys are still here because of FNAF, that's my opinion on it. I gave a big recap of it, and I said what I liked and I didn't like. And if you liked this style of video, give this video a like and comment down below what scenes you didn't like or liked about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And since this is the Halloween special, I hope you guys have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys next week in November.